Episode 76, Stranger Things Season 3 Review. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome to the podcast. I am Daniel.
And I'm Angela.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking all about Stranger Things, the third season, which I finished last week. Angela, when did you finish it?
Oh, man. I think about 4 or 5 days after.
Yeah, it took me about 5 days. My wife and I watched about 2 episodes a night. Stayed up way too late, but it's so good.
Yeah.
They're cliffhangers? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, they're
It's
kind of
like-
smart because they encourage you to binge it even more than when
Yeah,
you
they
wanted
do.
to.
That's why they broke all those records. It was
It's true.
Netflix.
That's probably
What was it like 18 million people watched it within 4 days or 12 million or something?
Yeah, it was like 18 million or something like
Man.
that.
So, there's going to be spoilers coming up in just a matter of minutes. So if you have not finished season 3, I encourage you to pause this when we get to that point and, don't listen any further unless you want everything spoiled, which is, this is a great show. You do not want this spoiled. It's just no fun. Go watch it. Let your jaws drop. Ugly cry. Whatever you got to do.
All of it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. You're going to ugly cry. So ugly.
I did. It's true.
You did. I got about 10% choked up, which is equal to the normal person's ugly cry.
It's true.
So
Daniel has no soul. Just
no,
so y'all
I
know.
don't. Yeah, I don't cry. I cried at my wedding. I cried at my first kid's birth, and nothing else.
Wow.
But one of my muscle fibers was like, I'm gonna get choked up, and all the other muscle fibers are like, wow, no, that's not happening. So it almost like started to happen, but it stopped.
Wow.
Nothing wrong with me. It's totally normal.
Oh, yeah.
Angela, did you watch season 3 with anybody?
I watched the first 2 episodes with my sister and her 2 kids because we just started all watching it at the same time. But then we couldn't
Fun.
continue after that for a while because they took a trip. And I couldn't
Oh.
wait any longer, so I watched the rest without them.
Sorry, guys, not waiting for you.
The
How old are they, the kids?
kids are 11 and 12.
Oh, man, this is the perfect age to watch it.
It's true. Same age as the
Like-
kids, basically, at least in the first season.
Yeah, I'm jealous of them. I wish I had a show this cool when I was that age to have watched. Back
yeah.
when I was young.
Yeah, they're loving it, so it's good
I
for
bet.
them. Interesting.
Well, I watched it, like I said, with my wife, and she's not a big talker during shows. I love to comment on everything.
Me too.
Like, I could offer like a director's, without me being a director, I could do a director's commentary on
Oh my
everything I watch.
gosh.
And I try to control myself around people who don't like that, but that's me. So, yeah, I can't really say much about how she felt or what she did because she just didn't talk much.
Mhm.
But
Did
I do know
she-
it was really hard to go to bed.
Is she ugly cry?
No, she didn't cry. She is a crier, but she didn't cry.
What in the world is wrong with your household?
We have no heart.
Everybody in my house cries like a baby, apparently,
Oh.
because my sister and her kids finished watching season 3 tonight, and I
Oh,
came down
man.
and was like, "Did the ending rip your heart out and stomp all
What
over
happened?
it?" And then my sister said that she and my niece bawled their eyes out for like an hour.
Oh, that's so cute and sad.
Yeah, I was the same way though. So.
I just imagine all 3 of them just holding each other in a triangle, just crying.
I don't know what that was like. I wasn't there for it. I'm just glad I kind of watched it by myself because otherwise, when I'm around people, I
Yeah.
try not to cry as much because I get self-conscious. But when I'm alone,
Oh.
I get ugly all the time.
Rolling on the ground, snot everywhere.
Yeah,
Like that? I mean, that's what ugly crying is to me. All right, well, let's get into the spoiler territory and
Yeah.
really dive into this season and talk about what we thought about it. All right, so first off, I wanted to state kind of an interesting observation about all 3 seasons, kind of in an aerial view kind of perspective.
Mhm.
So season 1 was a thriller movie, an 80s thriller movie, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Season 2 was kind of a sci-fi with some fantasy.
hmm
And season 3 is a zombie flick. Zombie/monster
Pretty
flick. What do you
much.
think about that?
I feel like that's pretty accurate. They all definitely have their different tones while still somehow
Mhm.
staying within the same genre, I guess.
Yeah.
pulling apart a little bit more on different subgenres in each season. But
It's like they're taking little ice cream samples, if you will, from
mhm,
80s culture and movie culture and
yeah.
shows. And they're just like, okay, these three things were big in the 80s: scary monster movies, sci fi, and thrillers. Let's, like, I'm pretty sure they didn't do it purposely, but just in the end, that's kind of what it looked like.
Yeah, like,
Um,
maybe first season was more Spielbergian or something like that, with some Stephen
totally.
King mixed in there.
You mentioned Stephen King. I read something on from his Twitter post that he almost fell out of his chair laughing when Erica says, "Let's begin Project Child Endangerment."
Really?
And I don't
That's what
know
got
if,
him?
yeah, I'm like, is this something about your one of your books? Is this connected to something you've written? I
I
don't know.
mean, I know,
It
like,
is
It
funny,
has a
but
bunch of kids in it. Maybe that's what it
yeah.
has to do. I don't know. I honestly don't. I've only seen maybe a couple Stephen King movies. I haven't read any
Mhm.
books, so
All right, next is, do you have a favorite quote from this season? There's so many good quotes.
yeah, I don't know if I what I pinpoint as my absolute favorite, just because there were
Mhm.
so many quotes that were just funny within the context of the scene. Like, it'd be super
Yeah,
dramatic, and then they banter back and forth and just say funny
yeah.
things. But I feel like I can relate to Will, like, during maybe the first 3 episodes when all the
Poor Will.
relationship drama's
Oh,
going on, and he's like, "Now can we play D&D?"
yes, that was so funny. That was funny.
Yeah,
Poor kid, man. He wants to be a kid.
I
He's not
know.
ready to move on,
No.
and he just wants to play some dang Dungeons and Dragons.
I know, he's lost out practically on, like, 2 years of his life by being
Yeah, it's
freaking
true.
traumatized and going through hell literally,
Yeah,
practically, so he just wants to play some D&D and forget this drama.
he's got his costume, his little cassette tape playing of music.
Mhm.
Oh man, what does he call himself? Will the Wise.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
You will address me by my proper name. That was funny.
Oh, man.
I'm sure I could find a quote that I like more if I really look through it, just an exhaustive list of them. But one that I cannot forget was when Steve is working the counter at, what is it, Scoops Ahoy, which
Mhm.
is such a cheesy, great 80s name. And he says, "Ahoy, ladies, I didn't see you there. Would you like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?"
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Oh, poor
so funny.
Steve. He lost
He's
all
just trying to hit on girls
he lost he
unsuccessfully.
lost, like, all of his mojo after he graduated
He
high school.
did. He looks like an idiot. He's just not
Yeah.
in a cool position to hit on women or girls. And yeah, just doesn't Dustin give him advice?
Yes.
Awesome flip flop there. Dustin uses that fancy hairspray to
Mhm.
get Will in the face accidentally.
Yeah, that was a nice callback to the
Or
2nd
Lucas.
season. He picks up the Farrah
Hmm.
Fawcett hairspray, and the first
Yes,
episode is
yes.
it's like his pepper spray.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have, aside from quotes, did you have any favorite moments?
So many. I feel
Yeah.
it's hard to pinpoint.
There's like 10 per episodes for me. I can't.
I feel like the most intense moment of the whole series, which was also kind of awesome at the same time, was
Mhm.
the sequence with the 2 guys from Nancy's paper being taken over by the mind flayer, being in the hospital and chasing
Oh,
Nancy and
that
Jonathan
was so
down.
great.
That was
Totally
intense.
Terminator and zombie influenced right there.
It was very, very intense, and you didn't
Yeah.
know for sure if they were gonna make it out alive from that.
Mhm.
It was very
There's some
creepy.
great behind the scenes. There's an interview with those 2 actors
Mhm.
talking about, like, in length and in depth about almost each, like, scene within
Right.
that major scene,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because they talk about which props were foam, which was,
Mhm.
like, sugar glass, and,
Right.
times they actually got hurt, they ran into the cameraman, they slammed the door on the camera, like,
Mhm.
funny, weird things that you just don't know about unless you hear, and it
Yeah.
makes you appreciate all the more.
It makes me want, like, a whole commentary on
Yeah,
each
I would love to.
season.
I'd totally rewatch the whole season if I could
Mhm.
hear commentary from, like, the cast and crew. That would be
Same.
awesome. Oh, and they use, I think, glycerin sweat. They kept spraying them with sticky fake sweat,
Oh, yeah.
and he said, like, their skin was just, like, sticky and nasty. Oh,
Ew. I would hate
that's
to
gross.
feel that way.
Yeah, because they would have to run down the hallway full speed and then
Uh,
stop and wait like 15 minutes for them to change the lens.
mhm.
They do it again. They have breaks, so they wouldn't always be sweaty.
But then they have to, like, run in place in between takes so that way they would seem like they're out of breath and stuff.
Probably just some jumping jacks.
Good lord, I can't imagine.
That's great. Yeah, shooting action movies, fight scenes, and, like, terror stuff like this is, it's a lot of work behind it.
Yeah, I'm sure you get quite a workout.
It's never done in one take. I feel like this show has so much press coverage and so many interviews.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know of any other show that has this much stuff.
I don't know. I normally don't keep up with all of like,
Yeah,
interviews and stuff for TV, but when we did the
me
previous
either. Yeah.
podcast episode for behind the scenes, I looked up interviews and stuff, and
There's
I'm
so
like, "There's
many.
so many."
These are a few of my favorite moments. I love when Elle ripped the monster's head in half. That was
Mhm.
I was like totally cheering her on.
Oh.
I love when Murray in the car on the car ride tells Hopper and Joyce how to fix the relationship
Oh my
stuff.
god.
It's a little crass. He's just like, take off your clothes,
I don't know. He's just so blunt. And he did the
He's
same thing with
crazy.
Nancy and Jonathan in the second
Yeah, he
season too.
did.
It's like whenever he smells bullcrap, he has to like
Mhm.
uncover it.
He can't sit around while people like beat around the bush.
Right.
I
Just
love it.
hiding stuff. He cannot stand things being hidden. Everything needs to be out in
No.
the open.
I love when Dustin and Susie sing the NeverEnding Story song. So
I did not
awkward at
know
first.
what to think about that when it came
Yeah.
up.
It was uncomfortable at first, but it grew on me. In about a minute, I was like, okay, I can enjoy this for the funny and the comedic relief that it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it went on a teeny bit too long, but
Yeah.
yeah.
They could have cut it off. Like that would have been fine. And that song totally got stuck in my head. Now, to 80s movie fans out there and fantasy junkies that like, you're going to gasp when I say this, but I've never seen the NeverEnding Story movie.
Gasp.
Yes. Hashtag gasp. I don't know when I could have. Like, I never saw it on TV. Maybe it was too witchcrafty and magical. My mom was like, yeah, we're not going to let you watch that. I don't know. I don't remember.
You never know.
It's a possibility. So I started the audiobook today and it's awesome.
Well, that's good. Sounds like it's better than the movie.
I mean, I'm sure it is. It can't help but be better. Not only is it a book, but the movie was made in the 80s. So there's that.
There's good stuff in the 80s, just not that.
Yeah.
I feel bad for saying that because some people who grew up with it are like, I love that movie. And like, have you watched it recently though?
Yeah. I have that feeling too. So I posted that I had never seen it, and like a bunch of my friends are freaking out. Like, I cannot believe you've never seen that movie. And one of my Abby Leon, he's been on the podcast a bunch of times. He's like, you know what? It's actually not that great, guys. Let's calm down.
Yeah.
He said he rewatched it recently with his kids, and he was like, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do an episode on it. I don't know. That'd be fun. A few other favorite movies was I love the very ending when Billy saves Elle. That was just so, that was intense.
Yeah.
Now, this is something you may not think about, but the sound design really just made those scenes so intense.
I feel like I need to watch it again, that part again. Yeah. Let you say that.
You should. Y'all should definitely go back and rewatch that and just listen to the sounds, the echoes, and the ambience and the music. It's just like, wow, it really nails it all home.
I'm glad that he got some sort of redemption thing at the end.
Yes.
Even though you're going to feel terrible about it because he's going to die no matter what.
I never thought he would have a scene like that, but then right when it came up to the moment, I was like, oh, he's going to snap out of it and sacrifice himself, and it happened. It was great.
I was hopeful since they always tease it how tragic his childhood was. So, it's not like he was born a jerk or anything, At
the same time, I've seen this trope happen with other characters in other movies where they have been nothing but bad. And a lot of times if these characters have actually done crimes, like they've legitimately killed people and sometimes even totally innocent people, and they've just done honestly villainous evil stuff, but they have a little bit of a turnaround time where they become useful to the team or do they do something good, but in the end they have to die because of what they've done. Do you feel like it's kind of a little bit of that going on here?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of similar, but I feel like you can't avoid it either sometimes.
Like, it would be weird if they had a redemption of a character like this, but they just went on living a happy-go-lucky life with all the other good guys when they have done like horrible crimes and they're never going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I feel like the writers in these types of stories, they kill them off as a sacrifice move because that atones for their crimes. At the same time, it gives a surprise and they become useful. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I think that scene's also super cool because it also shows how Billy's like standing up to the thing that's been controlling him this whole season, but it's kind of seems symbolic of like him standing up to his dad after so many years.
Oh, monster. Yeah. And he does show remorse. There's a few scenes where his true self comes out and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, but he can't control it.
I do wonder, like that part in the sauna, which I think is also one of my more favorite scenes just because of how intense it is. Yes. When he's crying on the floor and apologizing to Max. Faking? Yeah, I think it's the Mind Flayer doing that. Because he's like setting himself up and he's grabbing the piece of glass underneath the bench in the sauna.
Yeah, that's true.
He's crying.
It's a move.
So like that.
I thought there was another time where he cried and it seemed less agenda and more real. Like maybe when he was in the psychic world with Elle or something. I don't remember.
It's possible. I can't remember exactly when that happens. I mean, I'm sure Billy's still in there somewhat. And especially like if in the psychic world where like Elle can kind of maybe see both sides going on in there.
That was trippy.
Yeah. And also he saved Mike's mom from getting taken over by the Mind Flayer when she went to go apologize to him while at the pool, like in the second episode or something. Like he has a vision that he like just totally knocks her upside the head and knocks her out. But
and he
then
doesn't, yeah.
then he doesn't. So I think that was Billy coming through to
knowing better.
It's
like early on he had a little control, but then he lost it.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question. Do you think the product placement and all the 80s nostalgia stuff, do you think it was too much?
Yes and no, because I definitely did notice it. I was like, wow, there's a lot of product placement, but also the 80s movies tended to do that quite a bit. So I feel like it was part referencing all that and also legit. It was there a lot, but it also didn't annoy me for some reason.
Yeah.
I did think the new Coke thing was a little out there and kind of
I think that's the only one that bothered me.
Yeah.
Coke paid them some money.
Yeah, it was a little too much, but I mean, that also happened in the 80s, so.
I was really turned off by Hopper in the first episode or two. I just feel like he was so
gross.
Bottom of the barrel, upset, nasty attitude about everything. I was like, what happened to my Hopper? No way.
I want to say, I like to joke to myself and say, just raising a teenage daughter is what did that to him.
Do it to you.
Now that I'm like around my preteen niece, I can definitely see it's a lot of drama and a lot of emotions going around.
I'll let you know how it's like in about 10 years. I'll be dealing with it myself.
Yeah, I know. Get ready, Daniel.
I got a 6-year-old, so maybe 5-6 years I'll be dealing with something.
More than likely. You got a lot of girls too, so good luck.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, I got a 6, a 5-year-old, and now a 10-month-old girl. So they're going to be bam, bam, and a little bit of a break, but then there's a boy, and then another teenage girl will happen after that. And I will become Hopper.
Yeah. There you go.
There will be no boys in our house, though.
They'll make you see about that.
I'm going to remove their doors from their rooms. And cameras, let's see, laser detectors on the windows. Nothing crazy, just reasonable.
Yeah. You're like 3 inches, my butt, no door.
3 feet, no door.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I wonder what else could have made them like that besides always having to deal with supernatural threats coming through into your world.
That'll take a toll. I mean, it's like borderline PTSD what they get, everybody dealt with in season 1 and 2. That actually leads me to one of my other questions is all the stuff that we saw happen in season 1 and season 2 together. Do you think that all that stuff would have led to a different looking Hawkins, a different family dynamic, and a different type of parenting from Hopper and Joyce and the other parents too? Hawkins is kind of the same.
I don't know what's going on in this town because nobody ever seems to know about anything. They seem to know how to cover up everything super well, and I don't see how they're able to when there's little 50-foot flesh monsters walking around sometimes. But yeah, I mean, they always seem to make it seem like that they just know how to cover up everything super well, except in the end of the 3rd season when so many people have freaking disappeared. I'm sure it's starting to open up everybody's eyes that something bad is happening. But it seems like other than Hopper and Joyce, like even the other parents just seem kind of oblivious.
Dude, season 3, so many times my wife was like, where are the parents and why do they not care about their children?
You could say it's the 80s, but
yeah, you could chalk it up to that.
I mean, parents
back when kids played outside.
It's true because I think my parents did say like my brother and sister would just go riding their bikes around and just expect them to be back when the street lights turned on. So
nice.
I feel like that trope was turned up to 11 with the series just for plot reasons, but still.
Kids are so free roaming and the parents are so clueless.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that these kids aren't going to like a lot of therapy, honestly.
I wouldn't have minded if they did have some therapy scenes. That would have been actually pretty cool. But that could be some character building.
It's true, but then now I'm wondering like maybe because it's the 80s, maybe that wasn't pushed as much, for mental health awareness and stuff.
Oh, not bad. Yeah, that's a good point too. They were not woke. They were not woke to mental illness.
They were very not woke in the 80s.
Okay, so all 3 seasons have been basically about a monster coming into our realm, often from underground and causing havoc. And then the kids have to basically protect 11 and keep her alive so that she can use her superpowers and defeat the big bad monster. That's season 1. That's also season 2. And it's basically season 3.
Practically,
do you think that's like lazy writing? Do you think it's coincidence? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I guess you could say it's lazy writing because she pretty much is the one who's always capable to beat whatever's going on.
She is a little bit. She's a Mary Sue that does pass out a lot.
Yeah,
and she has some weaknesses, but she's always the one that saves the day somehow with her powers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of this season, at least, she seems to have lost her powers temporarily. So I think maybe that's them trying to get away from this trope. Maybe in the next season.
Let me take it back. She didn't defeat this monster in season 3.
True, Billy technically did at the end, I guess.
Well, he delayed the monster enough to give the other guys a time to close the rift.
That's true. Yeah. So if they didn't do that, then they might not have been able to.
Yeah, Elle probably would have died.
Yeah, everybody would have been dead if they didn't.
Because that monster had the munchies for some juicy heart snack.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what they're going to face next season, because it seems like, I don't know if they're going to be facing the Mind Flayer again, because he's still not dead.
Yeah, I hope they don't pull a Star Wars where it's just like the same old, another Death Star, another, crackpot team against all odds kind of mission. And, they blow everything up successfully and save the day. Like, they need to do something new with season 4. Very, very new. And I'm sure they will. From there's like 1 or 2 quotes out right now from the Duffer Brothers about season 4. So we don't really know anything yet. But from what they've said, it does sound like they realize that they need to do something new. And I'm excited about that. Someone posted a fake, I'm pretty sure it's a fake poster for a new Harry Potter movie called The Return of the Dark Lord. I'm just like, are you serious? No. That's all he did for the last 8 movies was he returned. Like, let's move on.
Yeah, that has to be fake, because I don't think there's a book or anything like that.
No. Yeah. Well, there are new movies. I think there's 4 stories that have been like confirmed, and I guess that means new movies. Let's be honest, it's going to be movies because there's money. But yeah, I'm excited about that though. But I hope that season 4 is something new and surprising and changes up this formula.
Yeah, they really need to, because that's why I would rate season 3 a little bit below the others, just because it felt a little too similar to season 2, even though there was like a lot of different stuff going on. Is same villain, possession theme, all that jazz happening.
Yeah, it really finalized and kind of was a direct sequel to season 2 because thematically of the possession and the Mind Flayer and like. It finally breaks through full force and does what it wanted to do. This is what it's going to look like. Season 2, he was trying, but they got him out of will. Yeah, I was surprised by this season. I didn't see it coming. I thought that up to when I saw the trailer, then I knew, this is another possession story. It's the Mind Flayer. Billy, of course, is going to be the big bad human. Yeah, and this and that. But up till I saw the trailer, I was thinking, surely they're going to explore the Upside Down. I was hoping that they either find some humans like surviving somewhere.
That'd be cool.
And they would help them. We would learn about the geography and the world of the Upside Down, which we didn't. And then my other idea was maybe they'll explore more of the child subjects that escaped, like 8.
I was really hoping to see that like somewhat this season, because they, showed 8. I forget what her actual name was in season 2.
It was like Collie?
Yeah, something like that. Collie. So. I don't remember for sure. That's why I'm just going to call her 8, because that's for sure what number she was. But they never referenced that again at all this season. Touched on it. I was a little bit disappointed.
It would have been too cramped, though. I mean, if they introduced child subjects in this season, it would have been real messy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I expected that over maybe some other themes that they did with this season, like the whole Mind Flayer thing again. So that's why I'm crossing my fingers for season 4. They're going to show some more child test subjects or something. It just seems weird.
Yeah, the quotes from the Duffer Brothers definitely leans towards that option. Is they're going to go on a rescue mission, which, hey, that's another 80s movie trope right there, right? Rescue missions?
Probably, yeah.
We'll see.
Man.
How did you feel about that end credit scene?
I don't know, because part of me was like, it's the same stuff again, because like, there's a Demogorgon that's in Russia. And it makes me wonder, okay, well, that means they probably opened a portal there. So that's great. They somehow learned how to trap a Demogorgon without it teleporting away, like how it did in season 1. You can't easily escape. And of course, you wonder who is the American that they reference.
I actually haven't seen the end credit scene.
What?
I know. I've read all the kinds of stuff about it, but I haven't actually visually seen it. I don't know. I don't remember what happened. We finished this episode. I don't remember if one of our kids woke up or what. I had to go.
I think, it ended with Will and Elle, along with, his parents and stuff. What am I saying? Let me start over. Ended with Joyce and Will and Jonathan and Elle all moving out of town. Yeah. And then the credits started rolling. And then I think after all that was done, it just like immediately transitioned over to like this Russian prison.
Right, the base over there.
Yeah, wherever that place is. And then they get, they say, let's go get a prisoner or something like that. And they're like, not the American, do this one. And they pull out this random Russian guy and then lead him down a series of spiral staircases and then drop him off in this small containment area. And then they open a door. Demogorgon comes in and basically eats him.
Has a little snack.
Yeah.
Nom nom nom.
Yeah, there's questions about oh crud.
So I was wondering, where the heck did all of these Russian soldiers go inside this base when everything was exploding and American military was invading the place? Where did the Russians go? So I feel like there were plenty of escape options and evacuation procedures they surely would have had. And, they can go out through tunnels and go out of any of those houses and properties that the Russian, company bought.
Right.
Because there was obviously like hidden entrances and exits. So I have no problem with a majority of the Russians escaping, and they could have easily taken or would have taken Hopper as a prisoner. One theory says that Hopper jumped into the gap and went into the upside down and then came out in Russia.
Maybe.
If you jump into that gap, how do you not? First of all, it was like 20 feet away from that platform.
Yeah, I don't think he jumped into it.
He's not in shape. I don't think
he did. No, he's very much not in shape.
And the last time I checked, when that blue laser beam hits anything, it vaporizes human flesh into a pulp of, squishiness.
I mean, here's what I don't get with that whole sequence, because we saw like a group of scientists nearby who basically dissolved, right? We saw that, but we didn't see anything for Hopper. And since I watched The Walking Dead, I know that if you don't see anybody die, they're not dead.
They're alive. That's so true. I was like, they could not show his pulp of squishy melted flesh. There's no way they're going to show a main character's like burnt, disgusting body. They didn't. But the camera did go back to that platform and it wasn't there. So I think he was taken with the Russians. That's my theory.
Maybe. I just don't know how someone could have escorted them out of there before the blast totally got them. That's why I'm like, I don't know about that theory either. And since the Russians maybe opened a portal on their side, since they have a Demogorgon, maybe they were somehow able to extract him out of there or something. That's my theory so far.
I really love that machine. That is such an awesome model. I don't know how much of it is practical effects. Or obviously...
I don't know.
When it's really going, it's got to be CGI, but man, it is so cool.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is actually built.
And also, I'd love to know how acid helps a laser beam. I don't know how.
I've just learned to accept any weird science stuff that they come up with in these kind of shows. It's just, even if it sounds really weird, I'm just like, whatever.
We need more acid for the laser.
I know. I'm not about.
That's how lasers work.
Yeah.
I've been really tempted to get some grab some screen stills and recreate that machine in CGI. That would be really fun.
Oh my gosh, that'd be pretty neat. I've also seen the theories that the American could be like Dr. Brenner or one of the child subjects. Or maybe even Murray or something.
Man, what if the Russians have a whole bunch of the children subjects somehow, for some reason, locked in different cells, and they get to escape, or the kids go over and break them out somehow?
Man, that'd be crazy.
Let me read that quote because we're kind of in this area. Let me read this quote from Matt Duffer. He said, "I think the biggest thing that's going to happen in season 4 is it's going to open up a little bit, not necessarily in terms of scale." In terms of special effects, but open up in terms of allowing plot lines into areas outside of Hawkins. So obviously that means one of two things at least, which is one, obviously most of the kids moved away, right?
Yeah.
So they've moved, so there's that. That's outside of Hawkins, but also Russia. So my first thought was, oh my gosh, Elle's gonna like make a portal and come back and visit her friends, and they're all gonna go on some big, crazy mission and go to Russia somehow. But she doesn't have her powers.
Yeah.
And surely she could get them back somehow, but who knows, maybe not. And I had forgotten. I don't really know how or why she lost her powers, except for writing reasons, which is this. If she didn't lose her powers, she could easily use her power to find Hopper. And that would just kind of ruin, the mystery.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And she probably could have used it for something else really conveniently at the end, too, that would have kind of killed what they already wrote for the ending of season 3.
Yeah.
So it's convenient for story that she didn't have her powers at the end, because that would have been too easy for her to find and learn out that he's dead.
Yeah.
So, or that he's not dead, of course. I see him in a Russian prison. Oh, everything's good now.
Yeah.
I mean, why did she lose her power? She lost it when the thing was in her leg, right? She pulled it out.
Yeah.
I
don't know exactly. Like, I don't know.
It was right then.
Yeah.
Because she tried to move a soda can and she couldn't after the thing came out of her leg.
Right.
Someone on Reddit said that their theory is that when the thing was inside of her, it absorbed her power into the big monster.
Then why didn't he start throwing things around with its mind?
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I thought of at the time was maybe she just strained herself too much and just like.
That's what I thought too, but
It just
You
seems a
think it
little
would come
weird.
back in time?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like she's got to get her powers back at some point next season, just because she's not Elle without her powers. That's a
Yeah, it's
big
just no fun
point.
without superpowers.
No, I mean, you never
I
know.
agree.
Maybe they do want to do something completely different, and they just want her to be a bit more normal and not Super Mary Sue or something. I don't know.
Maybe she just needs to eat more Eggos and she'll gain her power back.
Yeah, that was the source of
Like a
her
video
power
game.
all along.
Yeah, or she needs to recharge her MP meter with some more Eggos.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man.
So speaking of the thing in her leg, this season was so gory.
Yes, it was.
Oh my gosh, they went over and above with the gore.
Yeah, giant gore monsters, kind of hard. It was icky.
That was so The Blob. Like there was an 80s movie called The Blob. It is disgusting. Totally influenced by that, and a little bit of the Thing, because it kind of shapeshifts and takes in things.
Oh yeah.
It was just a great amalgam of 80s terror stuff happening. The other thing I noticed was they said the SH word a lot.
Oh yeah, they did. I mean, I feel like they did a lot in the other seasons too. They probably amped it up a little bit more, but maybe that's because the kids are getting older and they're just swearing a lot more. I don't know.
Apparently the Duffer Brothers have said that they're really, really potty mouth, like in real life, like worse than the actual show script.
Oh, great.
They curse it up. Yeah, I mean, they've been around adults for the past like 4 years. So who knows what they talk about? So
I think I read one account where the kid who plays Mike, like in season 1, you know, he didn't have much of a mouth or anything, but in between season 1 and 2, he was in the It movie, the remake, and apparently his character curses like a lot. So when he came back on set, he started like having a sailor mouth, and all the kids were like mortified at first.
He influenced them all. He's a bad influence. I complained to my wife. I was like, they're saying that, SH word so much. And she's like, wouldn't you though? I mean, look what's happening.
It's true. Like their lives are in danger all the time.
I don't curse, but I would curse if that stuff's happening to me.
I probably would too if I was in life-threatening danger all the time.
Yeah, you got bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
I really could have done without the making out scenes of just like kissing. And I was like, oh.
I feel like it's true to life to how teenagers are when the hormones are crazy, and you'll learn about that soon with your children one day, Daniel.
No, they will never kiss until they are married for 10 years. Then they will kiss.
Oh, okay. Let me know how that goes.
Also, my daughter's grooms will take on my last name because they will realize how awesome my family legacy is. And they will want to be a Grove. So there's that also. I thought about this. Okay.
Okay, I can tell. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, it was a bit much. I mean, yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it's because of raging hormones is what they're trying to get across. But it did get a bit annoying, and I can understand why Hopper is the way that he is, probably.
Yeah, all crotchety and grumpy.
Yeah. I mean, I also thought that Mike was a bit creepy, like in the first half of the season for that reason.
His posture was making my back sore. The way he just leans, I'm just like, oh, I got a tight back now just watching your bad posture in this season.
Yeah, I don't know why they made him
it's weird.
Like that. Oh, God.
It's not even always, like, I can see it when he's, like, embarrassed or, like, that, negative, like, feeling bad or scared or something. But it was like that almost the whole time. I'm like, dude, stand up straight.
Yeah, his body has like a permanent S shape throughout a lot of it. I mean, I get it, teens slouch and stuff, but come on, dude. You're acting like your head weighs more than your neck can hold up or something.
It's all that hair. Speaking of hair, Will's hair was atrocious this season.
Oh,
I mean, that bowl cut.
I mean, it always is. Was it really a lot worse?
It's historically accurate. I just kept staring. I was like, dude, this poor kid, he looks like awful. But you know what? I saw some videos of him like in real life, doing like press events and stuff like that. He is like a hunk. He got this cool haircut. He looks like not like a dweeb. And he's a good looking guy.
Yeah, it just shows you what the right haircut can do for you.
Yeah. Magic. It's like Stranger Things makeover. After the show is done, you get to look like a normal, cool young person.
Yeah, it's true for the guys especially.
Oh man, something at the end, that really interesting little news like expose, right? That happens at the end. Something made me laugh so hard. It was when they blamed Satanism.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
And the reason why I thought it was funny is because it's actually pretty accurate to the times.
Yeah.
So in the 80s, everything was Satanism, the occult, witchcraft. It was almost like Salem witch trials all over again in a kind of vague way in the American culture, at least within the Christian circles.
Yeah.
Because anything that went bad, weird stuff going on in the world. It was so many people chalked it up to instantly to Satanism and Satan.
That's funny. I thought they would reference
I thought it was funny. Yeah, and Dungeons and Dragons also was not cool in the Christian circles back in the day.
Yeah.
And I can't recall if they made a connection in that little expose or if I read it online, but they were kind of saying, maybe kids these days are playing so much Dungeons and Dragons and other occultic games that, a gate to hell was open and this and that.
Yeah. I've heard of all that stuff
kind
before.
Of funny little slight 80s, history.
Because Mike and his friends just had to play Dungeons and Dragons in his basement. That's why everything started.
Here's a problem that I had that I couldn't quite resolve. Maybe it's because I remember things wrong. But how much time in the show's universe passed between season 2 and 3?
I think it's like maybe 9 months.
6 months?
9 months maybe. Because season 2 took place around Halloween, 1984. Oh, yeah. And then I think it was, 4th of July, 1985.
Okay.
Season 3.
Good. So, yeah, less than a year, right? So about 9 months, 6 months in that time.
Yeah.
2 problems I have with that is, first of all, the kids have aged way more than 6 months. I don't care how hard puberty hits you. You can't grow that much in 6 months. If you do, you need to see a doctor immediately. Yeah. So the kids have matured and grown way more than is realistically believable. I think they should have added another year and a half in there somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
The second thing is the Russian base. So Alexei was the second-hand scientist in Russia, right? The first portal gun, I'll call it, didn't work. And the main scientist was killed. He said, Alexei, you have a year. So he comes to America, I presume, makes the base and the mall, right? The mall was not there in season 2. So when they made the mall and bought the properties, they also made the secret base underneath. In 6 months to 9 months? I don't think so. And another gun. And they're testing it. I just feel like that's way rushed. What do you think?
Probably.
Am I being crazy?
Unless they somehow brought in like a ton of Russians to just like go at it as fast as they could or something. I don't know what the equation is.
I'm sure the mall funded all of their needs, so
probably. Yeah, it probably isn't realistic. That's what you're gonna get with TV. The whole thing is unrealistic because they got armed guards walking around. I think they have Russian weapons on full view.
Like, right out in the open. Yeah, that was great. Why did the base need to be there though? Like, is it easier to get to the Upside Down in Hawkins because of what's happened in the past?
That's what I think. I think they said something about it. Like the location is somehow important. I want to say,
yeah,
I don't know, like maybe it's the weakest link between the two dimensions.
So that means that they would have had to have a spy on the American side to tell the Russians about it.
Right, yeah.
So someone leaked it and then, we got to go. This is a good spot. They've had success and this stuff has happened. So then they went over and made the base.
Most likely.
Intriguing. Another why that I had is, why did the kids have to move at the end? Was that necessary?
I can think of maybe 2 reasons. One, I think the major one being is just with all the stuff that has been tied to Hawkins and all the trauma that has gone on in the Byers home.
Come on.
I feel like Joyce just had to get out of there just because she just wants peace of mind for her family.
Yeah.
And also the other reason, I think it's also, you know how like all the small businesses were closing down in the show because of the mall? Well, the place where she was working at was also going under too.
Yeah. So it was drying up too.
Yeah, so I wonder if it was just too hard to find work in Hawkins for her, and so she just had to sell the house and try elsewhere or something.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's sad.
Good reasons.
But
I'm like, how are we going to stick together as a team,
I know. Hopefully they would move to a town, nearby or something. I don't know.
Dustin's going to find the leftover pieces of the portal gun, put it back together, and make his own.
Great. Dustin, that would be the stupidest thing.
It would be.
We talked about the 2 deaths with Hopper and Billy, but we never talked about Alexei.
He's great.
He is amazing.
He's got a fan following.
I never would have imagined he would have been as great as he was when he first showed up.
My wife really liked him.
Yeah, I did too. Like when the scene came around with him getting like the Burger King and the strawberry Slurpee and watching Woody Woodpecker, just like fell in love with him. That was one of my favorite scenes too, was that whole exchange between him and Hopper about the cherry and the strawberry slushy. But no, it's just so tragic then when he was having a good old time at the carnival. He managed to show up Murray.
Having so much fun.
Yeah, he showed Murray, hey, these games aren't rigged. Look, I won a plushie. Yeah, and then the freaking Russian Terminator came and got him.
Oh my gosh, terrifying.
Is he not like the Terminator? Because that's what I thought.
Yeah,
like, whole way
totally Terminator. He even kind of looked Austrian. Like he looked like a slimmed down version of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's true. Like there was some similarity there, and it's really creepy.
Alexi's death was very sad.
It was so sad. And then
they make you love him.
I know. They do that with every freaking character. Gosh.
They totally pull a Josh Whedon. For those of you who know, you know what I'm talking about. So closing out in this episode, Angela, what are some things that you would love to see happen in season 4?
Just want to see Hopper again. And I want to see more psychic kids show up from somewhere.
More psychic kids.
Russian road
PTSD,
trip.
More some Russians blowing up.
Yeah. Said Russian road trip. Yeah, you're going to get pretty far on the road.
Russian road trip. Sure. That sounds like a really bad romance novel.
Oh my god. Alrighty. I don't know what else. I mean, no more mind flare, ideally. But I'm sure they're gonna scale it up somehow. They're gonna, because the trend for each season is bigger and badder threats. Mm-hmm. If it's not the mind flare, then what could it be, you know?
Russians was the bomb. I want 11 or maybe even Will to wake up in the Upside Down and actually be there. And just be like, what is going on? And like make some major discovery on that side of the universe. I think that'll be just like,
that'd be cool.
Hey, something new, somewhere new.
Yeah. I don't know if I want Will to go there. He's been through too much as this.
Poor Will.
You know, that's actually one thing I wanted to see in this season. I wanted him to have like a super cool like hero moment though. Because, you know, nothing bad happened to him. I didn't want anything traumatizing to happen to him again. But I wanted him to have like a moment where like he really stuck it to like the monster at one point.
That would have been awesome.
Not like have the final blow or anything, but something cool.
Yeah.
He didn't.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, he was just kind of there for a lot of it.
Poor guy. He was just terrified every time the tingly sense happened. The monster.
A lot of touching his neck in this season. It's like, guys,
a lot of neck touching. So many bleeding noses. My goodness.
My gosh. I feel
like
I'm surprised Elle hasn't had brain damage yet.
Yeah. I don't think we got to cover in the last episode where we talked about behind the scenes and production details, but I learned that to get her nose to bleed, they did a few different things. They tried squirting the fluid up on her nose and waiting for it to drip out.
Oh god.
Yeah, which sounds very, I would sneeze it all over the place.
Yeah, or I would just like freak out.
Right. Another thing that they did, so that was what the kids said that they would squirt something up in there and wait for it to drip out. But then the Duffer Brothers in a different video, they said they had a sponge up there that they would put up in there and they would just wait for it to leak.
Okay.
And they also said that in some cases they already had it had already dripped down her, out of her nose, but they CGI'd it out and then they kind of brought it back in. So they they're erasing it so it looked like it was dripping, but it had already dripped. Which makes sense because timing the camera movements and the scenes, everything is based around the blood happening almost in some ways. So I totally like feel for them that they had to fake it because it's just you can't just sit around and wait. Oh, there it is. Press play, or go. Take one, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that would gotten old very quick. Just sit there forever.
I learned some other interesting stuff that just recently got out online since we did the last episode was about the Starcourt Mall. That it was obviously in a very elaborate set, but they had made fully stocked stores down to the details of the cash registers.
Dang, that
and the products.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I think they said there was like 20 stores.
Good grief.
In this mall that were fully like legit, and because they didn't know where they wanted to shoot and they wanted to have that flexibility, like, okay, we might want to have the kids run through the store or hide it behind this rack.
Yeah.
And they wanted everything to be real instead of saying, well, we can't go over there. We can't go in that store because that's just a front. We can't go over there. So they fully did everything. And apparently some people somehow have gotten into the Starcourt set before it was torn down and like took pictures.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't take anything because there's lots of memorabilia in there. Oh my
gosh, can you imagine?
Yeah, like there was a full candle store that was made that they actually were going to shoot in, but they ended up cutting the scene or not shooting it. There's a video game store, which I can only imagine had a bunch of awesome vintage computers and games in there.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Would love to have seen that.
Dude, yeah, that would have been awesome to see that set. They had the Jazzercise place.
Oh, that was funny. that was actually, I didn't say it, but that was one of my other favorite scenes.
It was really funny.
Because they were like, what am I looking for? It's like a scary blonde Russian or something. They're tall, working ladies. That was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up. We would love to hear from you guys out there listening. What did you guys think of season 3? Did you like it? Did you love it? What were your favorite moments? And also, what would you love to see most in season 4? Let us know. You can comment on our social media posts, or you can email us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Oh boy.
J.R. Tolkien,
no.
J.K. Rowling.
Excuse.
J.R.R. Martin Rowling Tolkien. I need to get a pseudonym before I start writing fantasy, I guess. With the J.